so much easier expressed when we can come up with a nice physical thing to fight or do something about. Even in fiction, when the enemy isn't necessarily so obvious as that dragon, it's more obvious, at least most of the time, than it is in real life. What of Neros? If you've not heard that word, that's a word I invented in one of my videos. You can watch a video entitled Neros. But I define it as Neros is like ignorance. Neros is like apathy. Neros is that little voice in the back that says, don't bother. Neros drags us down and away from what we would really want to do. Traps us in normal, simple habits and stuff, staying at an average place, or below that. But it encourages us to be still or to go down. So much easier if you think of that as being a curse, for instance. A wicked curse which you have to cure or do something about. Find the magic crystal or something. With fiction, it becomes so much easier. And this is why we love fiction. To a great degree, anyway. I read some bit of someone was doing philosophy, and they were saying, why is it when we look at, say, matter of fact, it was the philosophy of The Legend of Zelda. This is a book. I read a couple pages on Amazon. And it was, why is it we're playing this video game, and there's a cutscene where, you know, our kid hero has to leave his home, and he looks sort of sad. Like, why do we feel sad looking at that? Even when we know it's not real. And there was a discussion about suspension of disbelief and so forth, and I'm looking at this book, and I'm thinking, no. The reason we feel sad, the reason we have any reaction to things on a screen or ink on a paper, is because we know it applies to us. We sense the similarities between the fictional world and our own. Even if I'm not going through the same scenario, I can imagine if I was going through that same scenario, you see? There's a certain coherence to these things that makes it mean something. Much the same way if you looked at someone was doing math and they were writing, you know, lots of numbers on paper to, you know, work things out on paper. Well, those numbers are just blotches of ink, but they're related to something in the real world, are they not? Our legends, our stories, our various bits of fiction are related to things in the real world, and all too often in the real world we forget about that. And no, I'm not saying you're supposed to find, I don't know, a particular story and live your life as if you were the main character. That'd be foolish. You're not that main character. You're not facing the same situation, but you can learn things. It's a great skill of humans to reason from the abstract, to see, okay, this specific example of a story, and perhaps our hero has to learn humility or something. Well, humility is an abstract concept, and perhaps you, or someone you know, could use humility, could use that lesson. Such passion there is. And we see clearly through fiction that we don't see necessarily in our real world. When someone says, oh, you know, well, so-and-so has depression. That seems like such a starch term, doesn't it? Depression. So clinical these days. And I don't begrudge the clinical people from coming up with clinical terms. It only makes sense. But I think that leaves us, sometimes anyway, sort of detached. Oh, depression. Oh, that's too bad. Whereas I, internally anyway, and sometimes externally, like to phrase it in more evocative, emotive terms. I don't just say someone's depressed, they've ceased to function or something. Someone is plagued by a darkness, beset upon by fears and doubts, made ignorant by a legion of false ideas surrounding advancing, attacking. A person who is depressed does not see, do not understand. They are clouded and shrouded by their sorrow. Do you see how maybe I've expressed it a little more clearly that way? And each of us, we're not just, I don't know, normal people. We don't have to live a particular normal life, work 8 hours a day, and do normal things and so forth. We are, or at least can be, the heroes of our respective stories. Or villains, as the case may be. So when I have dreams that I wish to accomplish, and I'm not accomplishing them, this is not just some nothing to be ignored. It says, oh, and is that accomplished? Well, maybe they'll accomplish it some other time. Maybe. No. This is a quest. A struggle. These are things that to be done. But because they are cloaked in the everyday, they're so easy to forget about. So easy to ignore everything. To go about in your normal ways, your habits, when you could be doing something better. And yes, you could be doing something worse. Circle of normalcy and all that, that's another video I made. But we've got to have understanding of ourselves. Greatness we can accomplish, of the greatness that's within us, of the intricacies of our own hearts and of the hearts of others. You'll have, in fiction, a villain, and perhaps it turns out that that villain has some halfway good motivation. Perhaps, they're trying to conquer some country, and it turns out that country had once been tyrannical, or had once committed some evil that makes it somewhat justified. And we have perhaps sympathy for this villain a little bit. Perhaps that person is redeemed. Perhaps they learn to deal out punishment only to those that deserve it, and they leave the rest of our hypothetical country or hypothetical anyone to be on their own. But in the real world, if someone's done something wrong to you, if someone makes you mad, you think of them in all too simple a way, huh? Person made me mad. Reality is more complicated than that. But ironically, it is through fiction, through the examples via fiction, that you begin to suspect there might be more to this reality. And not that fiction is the only way to know something or to attain wisdom or something, but I'm saying it's very useful. These legends, and the making of new legends. It's not just the fact that this something has been old and it's been told many times over. It's the tools by which it is told, by which it is crafted. So be creative and craft your own here and there. Make metaphors, explanations, to make it more clear to yourself and to others what is going on.